This week we got 2 episodes of Daredevil Born Again, and it was a strange pairing of episodes. Don't worry, I'm just going to say strange. I'm not going to say boring, because I know some people get upset by that. So I'll just go with strange. Strange. The first episode was called With Interest, and the other one was called Excessive Force. Now, With Interest is basically a bottle episode, and it kind of feels out of place, in my opinion, in the story that's being told. It starts with Matt going to the bank to get a loan for the law firm. You see, they're running low on cash. Honestly, maybe you shouldn't rent such a fancy space when it seems like all you do is take on a bunch of pro bono cases. I mean, Matt, Foggy, and Karen ran their firm out of a tiny little bare bones office and sometimes only got paid with fruit and meat, but they were able to make it by. This is a really nice office. If you look at this, the way they've seen it, this is a nice law office. Trust me, it's nice. You don't need to be doing this much for this law office when you work on pro bono cases. Only, apparently. So we have, our superhero goes to the bank to get a loan. And let's be honest, we know sometimes superheroes have trouble getting loans.
I know for a fact that we qualify for an SBA loan.
Under the old terms, sure. But these days, with everyone just showing up, things tighten up.
And guess what? The loan officer at the bank just happens to be the father of a superhero.
I'm Yusuf Khan, assistant bank manager here at New York Mutual. Thank you so much for waiting.
No, thank you.
Yeah, that's right. That's Ms. Marvel, Kamala Khan's dad, Yusuf there. And he makes certain that you know that his daughter's named Kamala.
My daughter, Kamala. She's in California visiting some friends there. You can't just crack it open like it's a piggy bank I gave Kamala.
We want you to be certain to know that this is an MCU show taking place in the MCU, and that one of the most popular characters of all time, Ms. Marvel, that hit series and that great Marvel's movie, she's involved. And, it kind of feels goofy. This really tends to me to feel like the goofy part of the MCU.
Miss Marvel.
Miss Marvel?
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure I'm familiar.
This is her, right here. A custom-designed Funko in her honor.
I really don't like Funko Pops. And it really is kind of goofy that this loan officer would have a Funko Pop, custom-made Funko Pop of Ms. Marvel. There's nothing inherently wrong with goofiness in, Marvel shows or movies. Humor has always been a part of it. It just seems lately they've been overdoing it, and this certainly does feel really goofy in a way. So Matt doesn't get the loan. He leaves, and after he leaves, a group of robbers stage a bank robbery, and these are members of one of the 5 families of New York, and they're there to basically steal a diamond to pay back the fine that Fisk and Vanessa have imposed on a rival gang. And that's the tie-in to the overall story. Now, Matt's not far away when this robbery is happening, so he hears it, goes back, and basically becomes a hostage with a clear plan of taking out the bad guys. And to do so, he teams up with Yusuf. Yep, hey, that's Kamala Khan's dad, because we want to be certain to tick all the MCU boxes with this episode. This is, I think this is more of a one-off episode. I've obviously been critical of the other episodes of Daredevil Born Again not living up to the Netflix series, and I think it's completely fair to compare this show to its predecessor. The first Daredevil series had a certain ambiance that made it unique. It had a grittiness, a realness. This episode, to me, doesn't really have that. There seems to be some of that overly jokey MCU vibe, not smart, witty jokes, just, like I say, the goofy MCU jokes, which, like I said, have hurt the quality of the MCU in the last few years. Ultimately, Matt taps into his Daredevil side and takes on the bank robbers. There's a fight scene in the stairwell, which seemed kind of awkward to me. It almost seemed like Matt was having trouble fighting this thief, like he's really out of practice, which would make sense since he really hasn't, been doing the Daredevil gig since Foggy was killed. And I get that he's trying to be quiet so as not to alert the other, robbers, but it's just not, it's incongruous to what we saw 2 episodes ago when Matt handily beat the crap out of 2, New York cops. So after the situation at the bank is resolved with police storming in, Matt tracks down the leader of the thieves to deal out some, Murdoch justice while he's wearing a ski mask, a red ski mask that he happened to take off one of the robbers. Again, it kind of seems like Matt is out of practice. This fight doesn't seem as crisp as we've seen him as Daredevil before, but he definitely delivers a brutal, bone-breaking finisher to the thief. Yeah, that was just nasty. That was nasty. So, bank robbery foiled, thieves all foiled, everyone goes into custody, everyone's safe. Matt goes back to the bank sometime later to check on Yusef, who invites him to dinner, and guess who he could meet?
Ah, the famous Kamala.
Yes, Kamala.
Also, Matt returns a stolen diamond by sneaking it into Yusef's candy dish of butterscotch candies. Overall, it seems that this is a more lighthearted Matt Murdock than we've seen so far in the series. It's kind of more like he was portrayed in She-Hulk, a little bit of that goofiness. And like I said before, this episode does have that goofy element to it. It's kind of not as serious for some reason, at least to me. It seems to fit the way that, they were writing these shows before the showrunner changed, before the direction changed. More of a dramedy, drama/comedy. The second episode, of course, is far from that description. And I think that's where the real incongruity with these two episodes together is apparent. So this episode is where Muse finally makes his full debut. Fisk learns through the sanitation department, yep, sanitation department, not the police, that all the murals that Muse has been painting around the city are nearly impossible to remove. More importantly, they're all composed of blood. Apparently the blood of at least 60 people, which means there's a serial killer out there and he's killed at least 60 people. And the cops just don't know about that.
When the sanitation department figures out there's a serial killer before the NYPD does, maybe it's time to switch up the protocols.
I don't see how 60 people could be missing and killed and no one would know about it, but it's happening. So Fisk puts together a task force. It's composed of all the dirty cops we've seen so far. That makes sense. Sure, get bad guys to track down the bad guy, I guess. Now, it turns out also that White Tiger was looking into all these people going missing. We learned this because his niece Angela tells Matt the White Tiger was looking into this before he was killed. And since she doesn't trust the police, she goes to Matt to ask him to finish the investigation because I guess she thinks lawyers solve crimes. Maybe it's a TV show or something in the MCU or crime-fighting lawyers there. She doesn't know he's Daredevil. Why would you go to a lawyer?
What do you want me to do about it?
How about literally anything, Mr. Murdoch?
Of course, Matt refuses because he's trying to avoid being Daredevil still. And Angela just says basically she's going to go off on her own and do her own investigation, abandoned subway line where she's heard that people have been disappearing.
2 days before he got shot, you know what he told me? Don't rely on anyone to do what you can do for yourself.
Of course, she gets captured by Muse, and that's what leads Matt to spring back into action as Daredevil. Ultimately, that's what this whole episode is about. Both Matt and Fisk returning to their true selves, Daredevil and Kingpin, respectively. We see this at the beginning of the episode when we see Matt praying, trying to find some solace, turning to God, the way he used to do in the original Daredevil series. He then gets into a conversation with Heather about her writing a book about vigilantes. She wants his help, mentioning that since he knows both the Punisher and Daredevil, that maybe, basically implies that she could, maybe meet and talk with them. This whole conversation is intercut with another conversation that Mayor Fisk is having with one of the heads of the Five Families, Luca, in the mayor's office. This is the guy who has to pay the $1 million fine to the rival family. But now Fisk decides to increase the fine to Luca because, he came down to Fisk's place of business. And basically, Luca lets Fisk know that, you're not the Kingpin anymore, and I'm not so inclined to do what you tell me to do.
You're out of the game, old man. Stay out of it.
Now, I understand the whole purpose of this scene in the beginning and to show both Matt and Fisk's past lives creeping back in, but I don't think it works that well in this format, switching between the conversations. Later on in the show, I think it actually works pretty well, and that's when both Daredevil and Kingpin actually return. You see, Fisk goes to some fundraiser later on, has to get donations from, the old money families of New York for his redevelopment project. And he realizes, how beholden he is to them.
Underestimate the people in this room at your own peril. One phone call to the right person and, well, bye-bye, Gracie Mansion.
Basically, his ego's taking hits left and right. He's getting emasculated by the other crime lord. He's getting emasculated by all these rich people, and he needs to just let his true nature out. So he goes down to the basement where he's keeping Vanessa's ex-lover Adam, and proceeds to beat the crap out of him. Now this is intercut with Daredevil finally tracking down Muse, who has, captured Angela, draining her of blood. And now Daredevil beats the crap out of Muse. Yeah, there's a lot of hardcore beating and violence in these scenes. To me, it doesn't seem like he's as rusty fighting here as he was in the prior episode. That's what it looks like to me. But he does seem to be going overboard a little bit, as if, he's finally letting out all that rage that was pent up inside him after Foggy was killed. When he realizes that Angela is dying, he hears a heartbeat slowing. He goes to save her, and it's this time that Muse takes the opportunity to get away. And that's basically the end of the episode. But at the end, both Kingpin and Daredevil are back.
Daredevil?
It's okay. I'm here. Yeah. I'm here.
Now, like I said, for me, the intercutting of the fight scenes actually worked better for this thematically of them, returning to them's true selves than it did with the conversations in the beginning. Maybe it was just, the visceral nature of the fight, really understanding that both of them had all these pent up emotions that's just being released in such a violent fashion. Maybe it was the writing of the conversations themselves. I didn't think it was that good. I really don't think there was much chemistry between Matt and Heather. They're supposed to be boyfriend and girlfriend and for some time now, and it just doesn't really seem like they're connecting well. It felt like an awkward scene. So maybe it wasn't the writing that was good, but regardless, the ending really, I think, was on point for the theme of this episode, and overall for the theme of the show. Of the two episodes that we got this week, I thought the second one was better. Like I say, more in line with the themes of the original Daredevil story, the original series on Netflix, and definitely more in line with the overall story that's being told for Daredevil Born Again. The first one, the bank heist, like I said, seemed like a side quest without much purpose, just to remind you that, hey, we're in the MCU and here's some, lightheartedness, some jokes, because Daredevil's not inherently a very lighthearted show. I don't know that it's very effective storytelling to stick in this bottle episode with no real connection to the series when you only have 9 episodes in a whole season. Seems like your writing should be a little crisper and more coherent and contained. Regardless, I think that was probably these were probably one of the last episodes that were filmed before the rebooting happened. So we will have to see if there is a change, like people have been saying, and how much of a change it is. So yeah, that's it for these episodes. Second one better than the first, and I didn't use the word boring this time. Questions, comments, witticisms down below. Click all the good buttons. I'll see you guys next time.